All right, and three, and two, and one. All right, welcome back to the Educators Podcast. I'm your host, Alejandro Gutierrez. And as usual, I have a special guest with me, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Go ahead, introduce yourself to the people, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachelle Relador. I'm a second generation Filipino American, and I'm a native to Sacramento. Practically live here my entire life up until I went to college out in Berkeley. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Honestly, I'm pretty humbled. Never thought I'd be in this position. Talking to Alex here on a podcast,
Yeah.
especially after playing, soccer. But yeah, thank you for creating this platform.
Hey, we're here. I mean, it was like you reached out, you're like, hey, I want to do this. And I was like, wow, okay, now I feel really old because some of the people I used to coach are now like in grad school. So it's pretty cool to kind of see that come full. I don't know how old I'm getting then, but it was fun. Yeah, we definitely go back to your middle school days. You were playing soccer and you were playing basketball, right?
Yeah,
You played
soccer and
basketball. Yeah.
basketball.
And you ended up playing basketball in high school, right? Is that where you ended up doing the intercom?
Yeah, actually, played basketball, up until my senior year, but I actually tore both my ACLs, so didn't really get, the chance to, maybe if I could, try out for college, but it's okay. Everything, led me to where I am, so it's all good.
Yeah, no, I remember you were very athletic and very competitive. So, but anyways, you can still keep doing that. You can still keep being competitive in life and do other things. So it's all good. So kind of tell me. I mean, you reached out, you wanted to be on here, but I was impressed, right? You went to Berkeley and you've always been a really great student. Tell me about it, like at home. How much pressure was there at home about being on your academics, and how important was education at your house?
Oh, that's a good one. um, there's definitely a lot of pressure. Like, I think, as being a, second generation, like immigrant, our parents, my parents, definitely came here to give us a better life. So I think there's always expectation to do better than they did,
Uh-huh.
to work harder than they did so that, we could be successful and just kind of make their hardships worth it. They traveled here from the Philippines, they immigrated here from the Philippines, and, they came here with barely anything. So I don't think it was pressure. It was more just like wanting to, make them happy in that sense, because, I know how much they sacrifice for me to be able to, play sports and to, have all the things that I have. I'm really blessed. And then to be able to afford going to college, all those things that they sacrifice. So I think it was just ingrained because I saw how hard my parents work, but it wasn't really pressure. It was more just like me wanting to make them proud for
Right.
everything that they did. Same thing with my brother, like we both tried our best and did what we could, but I don't think my parents were. They weren't too hard. They weren't too bad.
Yeah, they probably weren't like super hard, and pressure obviously might sound like a rough word, but I think there's definitely like you said, there's like a path they want you to take, and you want to make them proud. So you want to like you said, make their sacrifices worth it, and so kind of talk about that a little bit. So they came from the Philippines? Did they meet in the Philippines or did they meet here?
Yeah, they met in the Philippines after, I think, during college and a church group, and then um, I don't know the story too well, but my parents couldn't be married when they came here because they were trying to get a visa for my dad.
Mm,
So there are a lot of sacrifices along the
yeah,
way just to be able to come here. So
yeah,
like, I think about that and all the struggles they went through, and like even being discriminated against at work just because they can speak English. Like in the Philippines, English is like the second language that they learn in school,
right.
but they still have an accent, and there's certain things that they mispronounce. But yeah, so they met there in the Philippines and had to migrate here and bring all the family over. So there's definitely a lot of that.
That's definitely like a recurring story that we hear from, like, I'm pretty sure you have a lot of friends that maybe not from the Philippines, but from another country that their parents either came here or their parents came here. So we either all of us or maybe a lot of people that we hang out with are first generation or second, that are definitely kind of living some of the similarities, like as far as coming from another country, starting from zero, and then just grinding all the way up to where we are now. Like you said, give your kids that opportunity to, like you said, do something that's like fun and to play sports or do other things that really they didn't get a chance to do because where they're from or what they were doing, it just it wasn't possible. So that's cool that you're able to do that, and obviously your path's not done yet. You're just getting started. You're barely finishing. You just finished your undergrad, and you're going to go to the next step. So it's not like It's not like you're done yet. You're not at the finish line yet, so you're still working at it. But kind of talk about that a little bit. Where are you? Is it a bilingual home? Does your mom, like your mom and dad, do they speak Tagalog? Or did they teach you that, or you just only spoke English at home? This is just me being curious right now.
Yeah, no, it's all good. No, it's funny because yeah, second generation, I feel like there's like second generation and then like a second and a half and like somewhere in between because like my parents, they came here when they're 30. So they speak Tagalog and they spoke Tagalog to us, to my brother and I at home. But they can speak English because like, they learn it, in school and they learn it in, the Philippines.
Yeah.
So they know it well enough to be able to communicate in America. But I understand Tagalog, but I never had to respond back to them. So I know it well enough to be able to like understand, but I can't speak it, which is so weird. People are like, "Oh, do you really understand?" Because you can't respond to me.
Yeah. No,
But
and
then,
that's
yeah,
there's like a little break right there. I mean, what do you kind of wish that you know more Tagalog, or you think you're okay? I mean, you can get along. I mean, you can obviously understand like your uncles and your family, right, and everybody who else
Mhm.
who speaks. Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, that's important, especially like in the development of a student, like to have a second language at home, even though you might not like speak it all the way, or all the time. Like being able to understand one language, and then I mean, obviously in high school you had to take a foreign language. So did you take Spanish, or you were taking French? What did you take?
In high school,
Yeah, what did you take in high school?
I took Spanish. But funny thing is, I actually took like a lot of Filipino classes in Berkeley,
Oh, there you go. That's
and
cool.
I'm still kind of embarrassed. I sound like a broken record, so I'm just like I try to talk to my parents, and then my cousins are like, "You sound too formal. Like it doesn't
Right.
sound natural." So
It's like from a book. Yeah. It's like from,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's what happens. Don't worry. I mean, like, that's like something that, like, I spoke Spanish first, and that was my first language. And that's something that I'm proud of being able to say because a lot of people, their parents didn't teach them or whatever maybe, and now they don't know it. But so Spanish was my first language, and I didn't learn English, so I went to school. And so when I tell my students that, because I'm a Spanish teacher, they look at me like, wait a minute, so when did you come from Mexico? I'm like, no, I didn't say I was born in Mexico. Like I said that was my first language. And to a lot of kids, it's like, what? Like, why would you not learn English first? And I'm like, because there's a lot of people like that. Like, there's a lot of people at their homes that they learn their home language, and then you could pick up English because you're gonna go to school for 12, 13 years. You're gonna get English. So it's everyone has their own little way of doing it, but it's kind of cool to talk to people that have a second language, and obviously like Spanish and like Tagalog are very similar. We know the history of like this, the Spanish being in the Philippines, and so obviously like "Come está" y "Cómo está," so I'm I know a little bit of it here and there, but anyways, we'll move forward up with that. Kind of speaking of your school experience, I know you were going to some really prestigious schools, especially for even for middle school. You were going to like a kind of a really rigorous program that I went to as well when I was in middle school. I went there as well. um like you said, you might not have that pressure at home, but did you have that pressure like with yourself to like always get good grades and be that good student? Was that something that you just had in you, and almost was that something you did?
Yeah, like you're saying, like leading edge and Thomas Charter leading edge is a very like different school. Like they really pride themselves on like academics and sports. There's like 90 students in your class,
Mhm.
and going to middle school and they're like, you get these like pres or what is it, eighth grade portfolio. Like there's these extra projects that they put on you, so you're kind of taught to be like an overachiever. Like you're conditioned to go above and beyond,
Yes.
and then that translates into high school, being part of the first IB cohort. And it's still like a lot of learning curves, but I think it's within myself, just the way that my family is, and like seeing how hardworking they are, and then also just wanting to be the best, because that's how it was in middle school, then high school, and then that translates to college. So it's a little bit of both. It's nature versus nurture, right?
And then like I mean I had the kind of that. I didn't go to Intercom, but I went to Natomas High School. But definitely when Intercom wasn't even open when I went to school. So when like when I went to high school, it was a total culture shock to me just because of where I went to middle school. Like it was totally different, and like you said, the workload was way different. Like I got to school and I was like, wait a minute, that's all we're doing. So there wasn't there was like a disconnect between what I did in middle school and what I did in high school. But you can kind of tell me, how was that IB program? Because everyone talks about the IB program. When I was growing up, everybody wanted to go to Mariloma or another school that had IB program because there was, Intercom wasn't open. So kind of tell me like, what the IB program is about. If you can kind of explain that real quick, because I kind of don't even know, even though I should know. So kind of tell me what the IB program is and your experience with that maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, where I went to middle school, Leading Edge, they kind of did, like you're saying, Mira Loma. So they did kind of funnel a lot of students into Mira Loma, which has a very, kind of renowned IB program, like
Yeah.
especially here in Sacramento. And then, being part of the first IB cohort at Intercom, there's a lot of like, obviously like things that they're still working on because it was the first one. IB is a, world, you can study things that they're studying in China, in Japan,
Mm.
it's the same, curriculum and content. So because of that, it's really broad. Like I had this class called, ITGS, and you're just learning about information systems, like, and like, global things. That's, something that's really unique to the program. Taking like, history of Americas, you're learning about not just, the US, but also like other, other countries. So, it does make you a more worldly student. Like you definitely, are exposed to a lot more things than you would if you were taking like US history and just like economics your
Right.
senior year.
So is that okay? So then, okay, I get it. I kind of got, obviously the internet. That's what the IB, right? International, wasn't it, like bachelorette. What is it?
Baccalaureate
Okay,
program.
bachelorette.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's obviously, yeah, something to do with that. And obviously they even have that for like middle school now, and they even have that for elementary.
Yeah.
So I guess they're trying to funnel some students that way. And what was kind of like the goal with that? Are they trying to prepare you for, a UC system, a private university, these big name universities, or what were they telling you as far as teachers? Because usually like, if you're other high school classes, teachers just tell you, oh, you got to be ready, career ready or college ready, but it's very easy. Like college means anything. So what were they telling you in school? What were the teachers telling you that you were preparing for?
I think in general, it's comparable to like AP, AP
Okay.
classes, hopefully get you credit for, college credit. Same thing with IB. Like if you get a certain, like, I think it's a 4 or 5 on, the English exam or the math, you can opt out of certain classes and get college credit for it. So that was definitely a perk, but the curriculum doesn't really align with, I would say, like college stuff. Like my junior year and senior year, I took like a mixture of like calculus and like trig, and then I think it was also like algebra 2. So when I came to college, I was like, I didn't really take calculus. Like, I don't really know what's going on here. Versus like AP Calc. So it's like more integrated, like things kind of just blend together. So it's definitely good in the sense that I think it's a different way of thinking. Like some of their like, the math problems are like more like critical thinking. Like how would you solve this versus here's the equation, solve this, and be able to do those steps. It's not very um I guess like robotic. They kind of, get you to think outside the box, but yeah, they just tell you'll get into better colleges if you take this, if you're in this program, which it, definitely helped me. Like I was able to get out of English, my first for a couple of years because I did well in the English exam. But I think that the curriculum is really different. It doesn't align with things that you're taking in college, and it's a lot different than AP in that sense too. Because there's also like SICA too, which I think is taking
Right.
college classes while you're in high school too,
Yeah,
which
that
gets
one's
you
cool.
like a lot of college credit.
Yeah, that one's cool too. I heard that one. That one was new. Okay, so then obviously you went from there. You were able to get into UC Berkeley. Was that your first choice, or were you trying to go somewhere else? Was that your dream school? Kind of tell me about that process when you were choosing your university.
Yeah, actually was SIR to Cal Poly SLO. I went to like the orientation. I think it was called like Multicultural Day, and like fell in love with the school. I wanted to study nutrition, and then I got waitlisted actually to Berkeley. And then I sent in like, like this little essay and everything. And then I hear back from them April 30th, which is like 2 days before you're supposed to make a decision.
Right.
Because May 1st is like SIR day. So I'm like April, I think 31st, I was like, Mom, can we go to Berkeley? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, can we just visit the campus? And ironic that I came during dead week. So like nothing was open. The
Right. Right.
campus looked super like gloomy. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, why does everyone look so depressed?
It was the end. Yeah, it was the end of the
Yeah,
yeah
it turns out it was dead
the
week. Like
term.
everyone was just studying for finals. So
Right.
like it wasn't really a good depiction of the school.
No.
But it was my first choice because I think, as a college or as a high school student, you kind of just want to say you got in like for the clout. Like, oh, I got into UC Berkeley. I kind of wanted, to be honest, those bragging rights is like, yeah, I got in. And I don't think it was the best fit though. Like looking back, I think I wish I would have known, to look at schools based on what would be the better fit for my career versus just going there, for the prestige and for the
Right.
clout and for, because, my friends and family and then counselors were like, how could you pass up? It's UC Berkeley, there's like, 12% acceptance rate.
Right. No, it's tough to get in, especially in this area. And obviously, like that's the you hear Berkeley and everyone knows Berkeley, right? So it's obviously tough. So I mean, obviously you got to kind of stay close to home, right? So that was probably part of your decision, maybe a little bit. And you went to Berkeley. So like, how was that experience? I mean, what did you wanted to go? What did you go for again? What was your undergrad in?
So I came in wanting to study nutrition and then, kind of changed my path. My junior year, I realized I wanted to go into occupational therapy, which yeah, UCs don't have that as a major, like kinesiology, kind of those other health, health professions, like they don't really have an undergrad major that really caters to that.
Right.
So then I switched to social welfare and public policy my junior year. So that's what I graduated with.
But you had a good experience, right? I mean, you probably had a great experience at UC Berkeley, right? I mean, you can't
Um,
say. I mean, right now you're looking back at it, but when you were there, I mean, you weren't regretting it where you were there, right? You're probably having a good time.
I think at times, honestly, I question like whether or not I should have been there. Like you bring the top 10%, of like high school students from every, like school around the nation, you get a really competitive environment, like super cutthroat. And like, I don't know, there was this thing, like, I think it was like the no sleep Olympics was a joke. Like, people would pride themselves off of like not sleeping and eating just because like that was the norm. And you have these like, everyone's doing that and you're just like, okay, I shouldn't be sleeping 8 hours. Like that's not normal. I shouldn't be, having fun just to get these grades. So it was crazy. Like students
That doesn't
were
sound like fun at all. That sounds pretty terrible. I probably do bad at that. I
yeah.
mean, I'm good at like not sleeping, but the not eating part would probably, it's not good. No, thank you for me. But okay, so you went to UC Berkeley. I went to Sac State, and I'm gonna tell you, I mean, everybody's path is different. If I can go back, I would have just been less social in high school and applied myself a little more. But I feel like sometimes I mean it's kind of bad to say, but I kind of felt like school was kind of easy to me. Like it wasn't that I would knew everything. I just felt like I knew how to get through it. I didn't struggle to really get through it, and maybe that's like props to my parents who like just put me into it. My parents were teachers, so I didn't have really a choice what I was going to do as far as schoolwork. But definitely like that preparation, like I said, in middle school, and then where I went to elementary school, it was like even harder than Thomas Charter School. Like I'm not even gonna lie, it was really like when I went to charter, I didn't think it was hard. Like I saw a lot of students that came from other schools, they were like, whoa. And when I came in, I was like, I don't know if you remember, but like you got to go to like geometry if you were in eighth grade, but I went in seventh grade, right? And I think I forgot what it was, like algebra. I forgot what it was, but I got to be in that one group that was ahead. And I'm not like that. I'm not like a brainiac like that. I just was that prepared, And so when I went to high school, I kind of felt like it was just I just wanted to get through it, have a good time, play sports, be social, just have fun, and I enjoyed every bit of it. So, college was kind of just there, and I didn't really put the work in like I said I wanted to because I wanted to go to UCLA. But I never put the work in to say that I actually tried to go to UCLA, so I can't even say that. But I ended up at Sac State, and I was actually happy with Sac State, because I was close by, I was at home, I was actually coaching you while I was at Sac State, so I was able to like coach, do my thing. I already had coaching gigs here and there. I was coaching high school, I was coaching middle school, I was coaching club teams. I worked. So I don't know. That came into my decision. Did you kind of like? Did you feel that sacrifice when you left everything behind and had to go start over? How was that transition when you had to go live in Berkeley and now have roommates and like do all that? How was that transition for you? Because a lot of people listening right now could probably relate to your experience or mine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot. Like I lived in, Sacramento my entire life. And, I just know this little Natomas bubble, right? Where everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
Like literally you go to Rayleigh's, you go to Safeway and you see, like you literally see people from, your high school, your middle school, and you're just familiar, but you go to like a big city, like, Berkeley, and it's definitely a culture shock. Like I was for sure, homesick the first like year at least. My dorm was horrible. I was in an all girls dorm and it was old. There were rats there. And, my roommate and I didn't really know each other. Like I didn't have that luxury because I was waitlisted. So they kind of just stuck me wherever, last minute. I didn't go to like the senior weekend stuff that they had. before they start school. So I felt like I didn't have the luxury of knowing people
Mhm.
like some people did, because they SIR to the school like a lot earlier than I did, or they made a decision. They knew where they were going there in like March, so I just felt unprepared. But it's a lot, like transitioning, like when you're 18, going away from home. Like my parents, I'm blessed. They cook for me when I'm home. They did a lot of the adult things like having to pay for things, and then you don't worry about bills, and you all of a sudden live in an apartment with people, and you're like, wait, how do I pay for the Comcast bill? How do I
Yep.
how do I talk to a landlord even? Like, I don't know, how do I get um how do I pay for this, like, what are they called? Not check,
Really?
but how do I do all those adult things that no one really teaches you or you take for granted when you're home? So
That's definitely a transition that and that just kind of goes back to like a running theme on this podcast that I have is like, I mean, when I first started the podcast, it was just to like talk to teachers because we were all home for the pandemic and everything. But then it started like transitioning to just people who just could share their experience. And I've talked to different people that went to college, obviously, and most of us we talk about that how like society has this like timeline on us. Like, okay, man, you finish high school, boom, you go to this 4 year, you live with roommates, you have a good time, and then right when you're done, you have a career, and like it doesn't work out like that for everybody. Like some people take longer, I took 6 years to finish my BA, which that was just because I kept changing my major. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, and it kind of goes back to what you're talking about. That like, yeah, you did all those things that you were supposed to do. You did the IB, you did you went to that 4 year prestigious school, one of the top schools in the country, not just the state. And after that, like, how well does that really prepare you for a career? So kind of talk about that, like, how well did that kind of, I mean, I know now you're choosing your grad school, so can you kind of tell me why you're choosing what you're doing now, and how prepared do you feel after your experience at UC Berkeley?
yeah, honestly, I think, like, looking back, like, I don't feel like, going to UC Berkeley was what prepared me for grad school. Like, I definitely had to navigate, like, what I wanted to do with my career. Like I was kind of saying, like, as a, naive, like, 18-year-old, like, I went to Berkeley for the clout, for the prestige, but I think I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. Like, I wish I kind of solidified that aspect. Like, I thought I wanted to study nutrition, but I didn't really explore that enough to like really say that. I should have really like shadowed people, and I should have shadowed careers and then chose a school that fit what I was wanting to do with my career. So I feel like there's like, disconnect with that in terms of like high school, you know, counselors and like the high school system not really exploring career options. They tell you to go to UC, they tell you to go to 4 year,
Right.
so that, I don't know if it looks good for numbers, but it's not really what you want to do long term. They're not really emphasizing that career aspect, in my opinion, my experience. But I think it prepared me, like UC Berkeley prepared me in the sense that, I like now know how to like study for classes. Like it's insane. I thought, I could read things, memorize them, but that's on a whole nother level. Like they ask you to apply it, and you have super smart students that are super hardworking, and
Yes.
I wasn't doing so well in all my classes, and I was like, what is this? I'm studying like real hard. Like, how come they're getting it? How come I'm not doing well enough? So you really have to know the material like on a different level. So I think that part prepared me for grad school, but not the career sense. Like I didn't feel like I was, really, I didn't have enough resources to really know what I wanted to do with my major and my career.
No, it's so much that they put on these, like we just said, high school. It's like I said, they pick a college for you, and there's like this big thing, like let's get these kids to college. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for that. That everyone should have opportunity to go to college. But there's also that group of students that they don't want to go to college, right? Or like, there's nothing wrong with going career first because there's a lot of people like they live really well, they make good money, they're fine, and they didn't have to go to college. But then there's the other group that college is not really. I don't know. I don't really think it's what you learn. I think it's like who you meet and you're able to network. But I think you hit it on the head. Like you should be given the opportunity to kind of intern or job shadow a little bit to see if that's really the career you want to do, because like we could all talk about like, because I always said I wanted to do physical therapy, but I just said it because I wanted to be around sports. But what if I didn't want to do that, or then I wanted to be an athletic trainer, but then like I couldn't pass the anatomy class, right? I couldn't pass the life of me. I was like, I didn't study enough or apply myself enough to even like learn all the tissues. It was too much, right? I was like, this is not, I got to a certain point in my life. It was like a certain age where I was like, you know what, dude, I need to graduate. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't really care about the future like that. And it's probably the wrong approach. And I'm not telling anyone to take that approach, but I had to do it and get out like now, I was like over it. So that was just something that I chose to do. But, kind of talking about what you said, like with, you know, you wanted to do nutrition. That's something you were like passionate about, obviously. And you said, I'm going to go to UC and do that, UC Berkeley. And then you know, you make that decision while you're there. Maybe you're taking a certain class, right? Where you're like, oh, this is not like what I like, or maybe like we think there's a career for it, but maybe there's not. Like sometimes like a lot of these careers that I look at these universities, it's like, what are you gonna do with that degree? Like there's like a list of degrees where I'm like, what are you gonna do with that? And like if you ask a lot of people that are doing what they're doing, they're not even using their degree. Like they might have one, but they're not using it. They're using something like they're using it like, oh yeah, I got a bachelor's, but let's say they're working somewhere, but then they have like a bachelor's degree in like history, and it's like, but you're not like you're selling insurance or whatever it may be. It doesn't even connect. So I don't know. That's that kind of like I saw that and I was like, whoa. Can you kind of tell me maybe some of your friends that you went to school with that did the IB program and everything? Did they kind of feel the same way you did as far as like being prepared for that next level after high school?
Yeah, I think the friends that I'm close to, like I kind of saw their path and like what they end up doing. Some of them went to Sac State, and I feel like like taking harder classes in high school, like you really learn like really good work ethic. You have to prepare and like plan things on time. But in a way, maybe college was kind of easier for them too because they, those IB teachers like knew us, so they're always on our back. Like
Yeah.
hey, like you're missing this assignment, and they know you, so they keep you accountable. But they're doing, my friends kind of are doing their own thing, and IB was good in that sense, but I feel like it didn't really directly relate to what they're doing in college and like influence them in what path they're taking in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, like I kind of wish I had more AP credit or like got credit through Sika because that would have been more helpful. Maybe took a year off of college if I just took IB or AP classes, and also maybe took classes at ARC while I was at Intercom. So I think that might have been more practical, but not knocking IB down, but it's sometimes you have to like figure out what's best for you and what, not everyone can afford to go to a 4-year university too.
Yeah, and I don't think you like I don't know, I don't think you have to go. Like I think like so at my school, I have some students that are kind of embarrassed to tell us that they're going to JC. Like they'll have like this day where they tell everybody where they're going, and they'll be like kind of embarrassed to say like ARC or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I went to ARC. Like there's nothing wrong with ARC. Like I got into these 4 years, but I decided like, okay, I wanted to play soccer, and I knew that soccer was, I wasn't getting offers to play at these D1s or D2s. So I was like, what if I just played JC? And that was just the route I took, But JC was fun. Like I had a good time at JC. It was quick. I was just going to school to go to school. I wasn't going to go to school to like be in a frat or hang out or anything like that or be clubs. I wasn't. I was literally going to take my classes and continue what I was doing, work and coach. And that's what I was doing. So that was my like strategy behind it. I know people go to college and they have a good time and all they do is go to class and then figure out what they're doing. I didn't have that kind of time, especially at Sac State. It wasn't really like that. Sac State's a commuter school where people drive in during the week and they go home for the weekend. So it wasn't like that. There are frats and there are sororities and people do get involved in that, but I live like what? Come on, I live like 15 minutes from Sac State, so I was just going home. I wasn't gonna, get an apartment to live 15 minutes from my house, and pay. So everyone takes a different path, and like you said, in high school they might have painted you this picture like what you needed to do, um, and you're taking these classes. Maybe they don't translate into college. They don't give you credit. They don't, in college now you have to take more classes or whatever. It doesn't fit your career path, and it's kind of hard though. But think about that. Like they make you make this decision when you're 18 years old. Like what major do you want to do? It's like, dude, I'm 18, or I went to college at 17. So what I thought at 17 was cool was definitely not cool when I was 19, 20, and then when I finally graduated, like at 20, I think I was 23. I think at 23 I graduated. So it was like at that point, it's like something, it's your life changes, right? So it's not that cool anymore. So it's like, nah, I changed my major, So that's definitely what I did. So anyways, going into like what you're doing now, kind of talk about that a little bit. I always heard the term occupational therapy, but I honestly don't know what it is. So if you could share it with me, that'd be great.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of people don't know what occupational therapy is. You know, like, oh, are you physical therapy? Are
Right.
you into, like, are you giving us a job because it's occupation? But occupational therapy, it's a healthcare profession that helps people that have possibly they're injured, have a disability, and they want to go back to a meaningful activity in their life. So it can be really broad, like someone has a disability and they just want to be able to cook again. So like, how can this occupational therapist, devise a plan to be able to, regain those fine motor skills to be able to just cook. And if that's meaningful in their life, then that occupational therapist will find a way to make that happen, and it's really broad, anyone meaningful occupations in their life kind of vary, right? Like someone might want to just be able to draw again.
Mm.
Maybe they want to be able to walk. Maybe this person just wants to, like I said, cook. So everyone, has things that make their life, meaningful. So yeah, it's very broad, but also very specific at the same time.
What okay, but is this someone that had an accident, or is this someone that like has a disability based just on like their health, or what is it? Could it be both?
Yeah, it can definitely be both. There's kids who have, disability. There might be a kid who has Down syndrome, and they're gonna have to live with that for the rest of their life. So they just need to find different ways to do the same task that all of us do, but in different ways so that they can still be able to participate in activities. And
Mhm.
then there might be someone who went through an injury, who just wants to regain those skills to be able to do whatever they want to do. So it's a little bit of both, and anyone can honestly like really like benefit from it.
Well, what? Okay, so then what would be the little difference between that and physical therapy? Because obviously you're teaching some fine motor skills or like a certain task. So what's the difference really between that and physical therapy? Is physical therapy more like a actual like you broke something, or what is it? I mean, I don't know. Could you tell us?
Yeah, there's definitely a few differences. Like one analogy that I heard from like this podcast that I actually really resonate with is they say that physical therapy helps you walk down the stairs, and occupational therapists help you put on your clothes to be able to walk outside.
Okay.
So one's a little more specific, but can be a little more broad in the sense that it helps you, with various tasks. Like an occupational therapist could help you learn how to put your clothes on, and show you different tools that can help you do that. Whereas a physical therapist, help you, regain, the strength in your quads to be able to walk
Right.
again.
Right.
OT can do that too, but I think they just the way that things are kind of defined is still, like, they're OTs do this and PTs do this, but they work together a lot too. So, there's a lot of overlap in what they do together as well.
Oh, no, that's cool. So, what kind of took you to make this decision? Why this path right now?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things. Like I said, I thought I wanted to study nutrition. I was like, "Oh, I don't think I want to tell people what to eat." Like when I really thought about it, like, I took a few jobs actually when I was in school and internships. Like I was mentoring for this program called Rise. I was mentoring high school students, and I think I fell in love with just like mentoring people and coaching people and that aspect. And then I also worked for this company called Kids to Pros, and I was able to like teach in a classroom. And like I was like, okay, I like teaching, I like interacting with people, and I like sports. And
Right.
I worked as a rehab aide too during undergrad. And I was like, okay, all these things combined. I kind of got OT. My brother's fiance just graduated last year, and she's working as an OT, and she influenced me as well. So I think all of those things come out. I was like, okay, I think OT is the one. Like I shouted some OTs, and like this is it.
Cool. No, that's cool. I mean, I've heard that term before, and I was like, even when you reached out, I was like, OT. I'm like, I'm like, I mean, I get it. I was like, I know physical therapy because I've done it before. Because I've torn my, I know you tore both your ACLs. You said I tore my meniscus 2 times, and actually today, after this is over, I'm gonna go get an MRI the third time. So I'm kind of hoping there is a tear because I need this to be fixed because it's I can't I can't do what I want to do is I know there's a tear because when you get hurt like okay dude, I'm hurt, I've done this before. So I know like trying to bounce back, like you said, trying to bounce back and learn not how to walk again, but like, get that strength back in certain muscles. And I'm glad you used that analogy that, being able to walk down the stairs compared to like getting ready and actually, being able to do a daily task, which for a lot of us we could take for granted, and we don't think of all the people that, can't put on their shoes to get, or, by themselves, or can't go get the mail down the street, so a lot of times, I don't know, it made me definitely reflect during the COVID, like, man, we got to get moving, and I started running, and I say this a lot. I say this almost on every episode, but I started running back again, because when I coached you, I was obviously younger and definitely in shape, but now it's like, oh, life kind of got me, and I was like, I got to get back in this. So I just started running a lot, and obviously that probably injured myself doing it, but it was cool. It didn't matter. I got back in shape. Um, but I started saying like, how am I not gonna run when there's people that can't run, or there's people that can't walk, whatever it may be. So it's like I gotta do something and take advantage of what we do have. So I'm glad that you're doing that and you're, empowering other people, physically and obviously mentally as well, because it could be a mental thing as well, for them to be able to, get past whatever they're dealing with. So you obviously have some compassion in you, and your parents probably taught you that, or have instilled that in you, so you're able to give that to the next group of people. So I mean, obviously, like the academic part of it, that's kind of stopped me from getting my master's in anything, and it's kind of like bad. Like I have a former player, I've had former students that have master's degrees, and I'm like, dude, how can I? I don't have mine, but I have an issue with like being able to choose what I want to do. It's not that I can do it or not. I could do it. Obviously I could do it. I could pay for it. It's like I'm trying to find that master's degree that's gonna like open my doors up for more things, and I just haven't found it or been able to do it yet. So now you're kind of inspiring me to go back and look and see what I could do next year, see if I could start this program and open up my doors to do something else. But kind of tell me on the academic side, what kind of I mean, you've probably had to do prereq, right? Because your BA doesn't match up with what you're doing with your master's, right? So kind of tell me that process, because I know that's a headache for a lot of us that are trying to go back to school like that.
Yeah, so when I switched to, I think it was my like middle of my sophomore year, to social welfare, and I kind of had that epiphany, like, oh, I want to go into OT. I was like, I looked at the prerequisites and I'm like, oh, I'm at anatomy, I need biology, I need,
Right.
what
Science,
else?
yeah.
I need, I had some of them like psychology that kind of, like were able to carry over, but I didn't have, a good amount of these classes. So I was like, okay, how am I going to graduate in 4 years? So I'm already taking out loans I took out loans at Berkeley. I was like, okay, I can't afford another year, to go there. So kind of clicked. I was like, okay, I'm going to take these prerequisites at a city college. And luckily Berkeley has like 5 city colleges nearby. There's, like Alameda, there's the Oakland City College. So like it gave me a lot of options to kind of play around with my schedule. So my junior and senior year, I took anatomy and like all those prerequisites at, other colleges, city colleges, and also was at Berkeley taking my regular classes. And honestly, it was easier, it was cheaper.
Yeah. No, hey, that's
I
that's
did
good.
better. Yeah, so it worked out. I was still able to graduate with my BA and get those prerequisites for grad school.
But yeah, so this is something you did during school. I thought you did this after. So okay, that's way better than, I mean, you deciding to do this before you graduate is way better, because I think it's a lot harder for like people who already graduate, especially myself. I graduated 11 years ago now, right? Almost 11 years ago. So like for me to go back, it's like, oh man, I don't want to do this whole thing again. So it's definitely, I applaud you for like going at it right away. Don't take too much time off, but definitely like, you were able to make that decision while you were still in school is a lot better, because for a lot of students like myself who graduate and then we start working, and then you have families, I have my family. It's like, man, I got to pay like for instance, for me to pay for this master's degree, it's going to cost me over $20,000, right? It's not the money, I have it, but it's like, is that money well spent? Because like, is that going to really do something for me? Like, is those 20, what I could do with $20,000? You know what I mean? So like, when you drop these $25,000 and the time, not just the money, it's like, is that really going to change my direction? Is it really going to change my trajectory? And it's kind of hard for people who are disconnected between graduating already and having a, kind of their established life. So I'm glad you're doing it now, before you have other commitments in your life, because once you get those, and once people let life happen, it becomes really, really tough. Like my dad he did two master's degrees while he had us, and I didn't know that. I thought he always had done it before we were born, but I, recently just found out he was doing his master's while we were like 6 and 8 years old, my brother and I. So it was like, and you did two master's degrees like back to back with like a family and two kids, like man, and he was a teacher, and he was working, so it's like that. I don't know how he did it, but so obviously it is doable, so that's cool. Anyway, so you're gonna do the OT and kind of tell me like what kind of preparation. I know you're probably like, I know you're more present now on Instagram. You're like you're posting things. Like, what's your approach with that? Like being more digitally present, and you know why? What are you doing? Like I know you say you listen to podcasts about it. So what are you doing to prepare yourself for this career?
So I'm working as a full-time rehab aide at a physical therapy clinic, and I just want to gain those like soft skills. I know I'm gonna, some of these people I'm gonna be going to grad school with, they're definitely gonna be more experienced than I am, and maybe a little older and kind of just have more skills that maybe I don't have because I've been in school for 4 years and I didn't really have a chance to work full time up until now. So just trying to work on communication and like learn some of that anatomy like in person, and applying that to my job as a rehab aide, working through like exercises. And then, yeah, like you said, I'm pretty present now on Instagram, just trying to connect with people. Like, I want to see what other, like students who are in my boat to like what they're up to and how they're going about this, especially during a pandemic. Um, my class in June, taking anatomy, it's going to be in person. So, I know I have that luxury, but I'm sure classes and things will still be a little different. So I want to see what everyone's up to and like, maybe, connect with people so that when I graduate, I have, those options of, just talking to more OTs like, all around the world.
Yeah.
But that's how I'm preparing. I honestly don't know what the best way is. Like I'm trying to connect with people to see what they did before they start school. I have about 3 months now before I start school, and yeah, I don't know. Like part of me is just like, oh, I want to go and like travel the world before I start school. Part of me is like, oh, I should like brush up on anatomy and just like really like, focus on, like, learning more things. Cause yeah, I'm a little intimidated. I know there's gonna be people who are more experienced in life in general when I
Yeah.
start school and have more experience in like, the clinical side too. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, I don't really have the right answer, but
No,
that's
no,
what I'm doing.
there's no, but there's no right
Yeah.
answer. Like honestly, like I think you're doing it the right way. I think that's definitely what social media is about. Like I heard about it today. I was like reading it today, and it was like a lot of times like we post something and we're worried about what someone's gonna say. Like, oh, this guy, oh, here we go, right? Especially myself, because I don't know if you've kept up with me, but I've done like a bunch of things within the last whatever 10 years, which I'm like super proud of. Like, I had my own soccer store. Um, I've had my own academy. I've had a bunch of things. I used to DJ. I mean, I've done like a lot of things where it's like I don't have any regrets. But definitely social media is for that. You post something and then someone says, "Oh, I like that," and that's people like don't like that, but that's what it's for. Like, for instance, if I post like my podcast episode and then you go like, "Oh, I really like what the guy was saying or what she was saying," like that's enough for me. Like that's literally what I'm doing it for. It's not even there's no money involved here for me. And I know when you're posting stuff, it's not about that either. You're trying to network with other people, like you said, other OTs or other people that are in that profession, because you never know down the road, like you might get an opportunity, because one thing is doing your master's, but the other thing is, getting your opportunity after. So, I mean, you're doing it right. You're obviously, you made your second Instagram. You're doing that like kind of like a personal brand, right? You're gonna like meet other people, get engaged with them. Are you using any other platforms or just Instagram right now?
Right now just Instagram, but yeah, like you're saying, like yeah, just to help, to get my name out there, but also, I hope someone like reads my, post and like, oh wow, like I never thought about going to JC while I was, at a 4 year to save money. So like I hope that inspires someone to just, to maybe go to grad school. They're like, oh well, I don't can afford it. But I'm taking out loans. So like I want to put my story out there and like, hopefully encourage people to do the same. Like I had someone reach out to me and they're like, are you worried about the financial aspect and the rate of return with school? And like honestly, yeah, I am. I'm taking out, to be honest, like hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be able to go to school. But yeah, just putting a price tag on school. But like I know that at the end of the day, like I think I'll find more fulfillment what I'm doing after grad school. And like I honestly don't really know what I would be doing if I wasn't. So like I know that'll be a good investment in the long term.
Right.
You
And
know,
we
so
talked.
like
I just told you the return of rate. So like, sorry, the rate of return. So like, literally is what I'm telling you. Like, I'm gonna pay these $25,000. Like, what is it really gonna do for me as far as my career or even whatever, So that's why I want to get something that would open up my door to something else. I've always been into sports. Obviously, like you met me as a coach, and I think I'm a pretty damn good coach, but that's a different story. But just being able to, like, I don't know, I want to be in sports. I really want to be in sports. I want to be in sports business. I want to be in sports management. So just finding that school and that opportunity to go do it, because I don't want to have that regret that I didn't get the master's degree, because I want to go to the next step. My wife's doing her doctorate right now. So like, it's just not like, it's not doable. We can do it. It's like you said, it's that investment in yourself as well. It's not maybe just, you're putting a price tag on education, but it's going to pay off down the road. Definitely will. Because not everyone could say they did what you did. Like, a lot of people cannot say that. And so you're able to say you did that. And then from there, you never know, you can get a job somewhere else, or, I'm glad that you said that you're able to connect with other people, and especially posting like your experience and sharing your story is definitely what this like podcast is all about. It's like being that resource for someone else, So like when I had a teacher on here and they shared their pathway, well, that was for a teacher, When I had a college student, and they're sharing their story, there's got to be someone out there that has that story too, So I'm glad you're sharing this, because obviously other people could be like, oh, I thought I wanted to do that, or I heard someone that's doing that as well. So whatever, you're being that resource for the next generation, or the next, your neighbor or someone who's listening, which this is definitely what the podcast is about. So I'm glad that you came on and you're able to share that with me. That's super cool. And it took us like, a month to get, or maybe more than a month to get this set up, but I'm glad we got it done, and we're still doing it right now, but I'm glad that we were able to get on, because like, I had you on my list. I have a list back here. You can't read it, but it's like a list of people that I have lined up, and you're on there. So I was like, man, whenever she's ready, I'll be ready, because she's like a busy person to try to grab and get her on this podcast. She's all over the place. She's like, oh, I got this birthday, and then I got this one birthday. I got this dinner. I'm like, hey, man, we're in a pandemic. Like, how much celebrating are you doing?
right. It's like, where are you going?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be no. So kind of tell me about the pandemic here. What have you learned from this whole like sit down time? This whole 1 year, like this literally been a year and like 2 weeks. What have you learned from this?
Oh, I like that question. That's a good one. Honestly, a lot about myself. Like a lot of people have probably said, on this podcast and just in general, you have a lot of quiet time when you're like, at home and you're not interacting. Like for me, like my senior year was disrupted because of the pandemic. So I didn't even graduate.
Oh, sorry.
So in March, so used to like, living with my friends and like, having more social life and living out in Berkeley. Then all of a sudden in March, I come home and I'm like back here in Sacramento, and you just have a lot of quiet time. And I realized you start to like realize what really like, I don't know, what bothers you in a way. Like I feel like I got to know myself just a lot, like being, with my parents. I'm like, okay, like I really can't, handle certain things. Because I feel like there was a lot of noise when you're away in school and you're so busy that you kind of, cloud all those things that you're probably suppressing a lot of, emotions and things. So yeah, I think the mental health aspect of it really, was brought up during the pandemic. I realized I'm pretty anxious, like, to be honest. Like I need to, constantly be keeping myself busy, but now it's all quiet here in the house, and I'm not doing as much as I used to be doing, going out with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that, a lot of, in a way, like soul searching, like just kind of sitting with your own thoughts and
Yeah.
realizing like I need to learn how to be by myself and not just be around people all the time.
It's hard, and I don't know. I mean, if you know me, and if you know me at all, it's really hard for me to be by myself. Like I am a, I'm a social butterfly.
That's why you have this, right? You're trying to talk to
I'm
people,
talking to
right?
people, man. I love to talk to people, and like my mom gives me a hard time. Like, get off your phone. I'm like, Mom, do you realize like it's 2021? Like everybody's on their phone. Like that's the thing. Like I know like when I was growing up, the phone was new, right? I remember like I'm that old that like the phone was like sophomore year where like people had cell phones, and text messages cost like 50 cents, right? It was crazy. And we were like on MySpace, So I'm from that little group. But my mom gives me a hard time, like, why are you on your phone? I'm like, how else are we connected? Like, this is how we connect with people. Like I don't think you understand. Like, that is like old. And like I hear, like I listen to Gary Vee, who's like a huge, huge influencer. He's a billionaire, and he talks about that too. The parents give their kids a hard time for being on tablets or whatever it is. Like, it's like, but that's like literally the new world. Like, there's really no way around that. Like being social and being on these platforms. It's just how you use them. And I think the problem we have now is how people are affected by it. We see things on social media, and like you saw, obviously last year was rough for everybody with the pandemic, with the George Floyd situation, with the election, right? All this craziness. And so people like are using it for like negative, like posting stuff is just like, it's too, trying to get people to react. And I started like, I don't know about you, but I started deleting like a bunch of people that I knew. I was like, you know what, I'm done with this guy, just because it was like becoming, like you said, like mental health things. Like, okay, that's some toxic energy that I don't want, like I don't need to look at that post every day just because you're my friend from like elementary. Like, you know what, like I can't do it no more. So like little things like that. I don't know how you felt, but that's what I did. So that definitely helped me. But I use this to like connect with people. This podcast is like to leave a story and to highlight my guests. Right now I'm highlighting you. And last week I highlighted somebody else. And next week, hopefully we'll get someone else. And, like I'm super excited that you were like even reached out. You're like, hey, I listened to it and I want to be on it. And honestly, like I had stopped, right? I had gone to Mexico like for the winter break. I know we weren't supposed to go, but we already had plans, and my other flight got canceled last March. So I was like, I'm going this time. I already had 2 flights lined up. So we went, and thank God, we didn't get sick or anything. We tested, we were cool. But like when I came back, I had already taken 3 weeks off of the podcast. And I was just like, oh, I felt kind of good to not have to worry about it. But then you hit me up. Like, I'm be honest, you hit me up. You were the first one that kind of hit me like, hey, I want to be on. And I was like, oh, like I got to keep this going. Like this isn't over yet. And then someone else hit me up. It's like, hey, where's that episode, bro? Isn't it every Friday? And I was like, what? Like someone actually like keeps up with it. So I was like, I got to keep going, right? I got fuel to just like, I had to keep going. So thank you for that. Thank you for like, giving me that fuel, because every little comment I get from anyone just adds a little more fuel to this so I can keep going, So I appreciate you for that big time.
Oh, I appreciate it. I didn't know that. Like I actually heard like Diego and like Vincent Payne, and I was like,
Vincent
I
Payne.
listened to the first episode. I was like, oh, I know these people. Like this is like Natomas, like the Natomas crowd. And then like I think by the time I hit you up, I already knew I was going to grad school, and like I knew I wanted to kind of share my story. And I was like, I'm blessed to be in this position. Like as a 22-year-old like going to grad school. Like I know that a lot of people don't know like how to get there. So like how can I share my story and be of service to other people, especially right now? Like a lot of people like can't even imagine going back to school with everything that's going on. So I was like, oh, let me hit up Alex, and I I didn't know you were on the cusp of making another season.
I wasn't gonna stop, but I definitely like I got comfortable with like not doing it, and I'm glad that you kind of hit me like, oh, I gotta go, and then someone else hit me up and said, hey, I have a question about teaching. I was like, well, how about I answer it on the podcast? Like, I don't want to answer that question like on a text message. And she was like, okay. And my friend Becca, so she came on, and it kind of get me going. And I'm actually gonna like start a whole new project with this too. So just hang on tight for that. But I'm definitely like, I don't know. I definitely have this like creative juice that I want to just keep going with. I'm a very creative person, and this pandemic, like you said, being here at home, and yeah, I'm blessed to be with my family. Yes, I'm blessed to be at my house, but I like to talk to people. I like to be out there and doing things and not talk about, I don't want to talk about elections or politics, none of that stuff. I don't want to talk about that, right? I want to talk about fun things and things that uplift other people, That's definitely what I'm into.
I'm with you on that. I know. I remember in the leading edge days, I was like, you're making sweatshirts for us. I was like, you've been doing a lot of stuff since then,
that.
right?
I forgot. Yeah, did we win the championship? I think we did. I think we won. I think I won like 3 years in a row. So I think you were part of that. But because I always go back to like, because my nephew actually goes to the leading edge right now, and I go to like the trophy case, and Mr. Shane has the trophy case, and I always point out like, those are mine, right? And he's like, yeah, those are the ones you won, because that was like the first time like we started getting trophies. I'm like, yeah, those are the ones I won. You know that, right? He goes, yeah. And I don't think they've won. I mean, I don't think they win anymore like that. But we used to win for sure. We were winning. We had a good squad for like a good little while. That was fun. Yeah, like I said, I was making shirts. I forgot. I mean, I still do. Like the funny thing is, I still have all that. Like I literally still make shirts. I told you, I've always been creative about that. Um, I've always been into coaching. I still coach at my school right now. Like a lot of things haven't changed, but definitely, I want to keep going with this creative thing. And I'm glad you were able to reach out so we could hook up again and do something else. Maybe there's something down the road we could do and promote what you're doing or help other people. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah, I'm here till June, and I like what you're doing. Like honestly, like I appreciate what you're doing with this podcast. Like I like that, there's a wide range of people, talking on there, and it's education, but that's like education so broad, in general, right?
Exactly.
Like anyone's an
Exactly.
educator, like you say, like anyone can teach someone something,
Yes.
whatever it is. So I
And you
like
actually,
it.
hey, she actually
Yeah.
does listen to this. I didn't believe her,
Yeah.
but she actually does. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's literally what it was. It's like anyone can teach somebody, and we could definitely learn from someone else. That's definitely like my thing because one thing is like the classroom teaching, because I teach a subject, I teach Spanish, but it's more than that. Like I'm trying to teach life skill. You said you're telling me these things that I'm aware of, like that we don't prepare them enough for the next step. And think my parents that I was prepared enough, but a lot of people don't have those parents at home, or a lot of people don't have that support in place to get to the next level. So that's why I'm there. I want to not teach you just like, como hablar en español. And I don't want to just
Yeah.
teach that. I want to be able to teach the next step. It's like, what can you do with this Spanish? I teach them a lot. Like, hey, 21 countries speak Spanish. You know what I mean? Like, and not just that, like you said, Tagalog is similar, and Portuguese is similar. So like when I went to Portugal, I was just fine with my Spanish. When I went to Italy, I was cool with my Spanish. With my English, they weren't even like, they were like looking at me. So I'm like, all right, I got to speak Spanish. And they got me. So like people could work in other places, they could travel. And I tell these kids that I'm like, so I try to like make it like worth their while. I'm not just teaching this Spanish book. I promise. Like I'm trying to get you to maybe somehow, when you go to college, you're going to use it. So I don't know, trying to make like real world examples of these things, and that's what I want to do. And yeah, I know, Diego, good friend of mine, actually became a really good friend of mine. Um, just like, I don't know, he just became a really good friend of mine from like, I had a
You're friends
soccer
with
story.
everyone.
I I just worked I worked with him a little bit, and then I know he's like a lot younger than us, but he's been kicking with us hard since then. And I got him his first coaching gig for soccer. Now he's coaching like high school and club, and he doesn't thank me for that, but I definitely got him into that first. I started him coaching at Natomas, I think in Natomas Middle. Yeah, in Natomas Middle, I got him in there. Um, and then Vincent Payne, he worked with me, and I know he was going to the church that you go to, right? I think that's how you probably met him. But yeah, so good people. Obviously, like it's not just Natomas though. Like we've reached out. We've had people from Chicago. I've had guests from Oregon. I have guests from LA. So we're trying to. And if you have anyone that's like good for this show, you let me know. We'll get them on here ASAP.
I will. Yeah.
So, anyways, anything else you want to kind of share with anybody out there about anything? Any last comments? Any like quotes you like, or any podcast that you listen to? Any books you're into? I don't know, anything like that.
I guess I had a message to anyone, but high school students specifically, like look at your options, like I said, throughout this podcast, I feel like I did what I was, like supposed to do, went to that 4 year, but,
Mhm.
my cousins, they go to trade school for nursing. And like, I honestly wasn't even aware that like there's trade schools for that. So like, just look into your options, and know that like, look for fit, like don't look for, prestige, but look for what's the best fit for you. I think that'll go like a long way. And I wish I knew that, like I have student loans now in debt, and like I probably could have saved a lot of money, but like I'm grateful for that path. But just like, look into, like, as an 18-year-old, leaving high school, there's just a lot of things I need to consider. And like money is definitely one of them, and like career options. So, look at your choices, look at your options. And yeah,
Don't be
I
a
feel
don't
like
be a
that's what my 2 cents on high.
don't be a clout chaser like her. Don't do that. She was chasing clout at UC Berkeley.
I'm admitting it too. Yeah, yeah.
She was hashtag clout chaser. No, so yeah, and I appreciate you telling the next group of people coming up, just to like do that. And like you said, I didn't even know nursing because my sister-in-law does nursing. She's a nurse. I mean, she's an RN, and I didn't even know like you don't have to go to a 4 year for that. Like she went to UC Davis.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
like did the whole biology and all that, and then still went to go do nursing somewhere else. And I was like, wait a minute. So you didn't even have to go to UC Davis? She's like, honestly, I didn't have to go. Like she did, but she's like, I didn't even have to do that. Like people don't do that. People go straight from like, what? So a lot of things are like they're not maybe they didn't share that at school. I know I
Yeah.
didn't know that, and I'm 32, so I didn't know that until like 2 months ago. So that's crazy. So
Yeah,
there's
like
obviously different paths, right? Different options that I don't know. There's so many ways, and Diego said it best. Like everyone has a path, and everyone takes a different one. Everyone takes a different path. It's not like you have to follow something. You don't have to, chase something or prestige, like you said, or like for the name, or I want to go do this and that. It's like there's so many options, and life is short, so you got to like enjoy it while you're doing it for sure.
exactly. Yeah. There's so many different ways to do the same thing. So yeah, just stick to or stay true to yourself. There you go. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, right?
Okay. Do you like meditate, or do you read books? You do anything for like self care? Are you like into like this whole self care thing or what?
Yeah, no, I'm actually like around my self-care like little table right now. But I think a big thing for me was finding out like through this pandemic what kind of self-care techniques like can uplift me. Through like working full time, that was definitely a big transition. So yeah, I had to tell myself like, what am I going to do during my work breaks, and to be able to like get back into it. And a huge thing is intermittent fasting for me, just like
Mm.
eating smaller meals so that I don't get all, like I don't get a food coma for the second half of the day. I try to walk on the treadmill because we have one of those at work, and then kind of rub little like essential oils on my temples, and on my my lip, just to kind of stay awake. And that's a huge thing, just like keeping me in tune. And then foam rolling, that's really a good one, for athletes. But not even for athletes, people don't know like how to, you can give yourself a massage like with a tennis ball,
Mm.
and foam roller. But a lot of people don't know that's even an option out there, and it's pretty cheap. Yeah, I try to meditate, I pray. um I just do a lot of different self-care because
That's
it's
cool.
hard,
No,
with
that's cool.
pandemic, we're
Yeah, you do a lot of
yeah,
things. That's good.
with like this pandemic, we're all bored at home. So like, what do you, what are we gonna do, right?
Yeah, no, that's cool. I kind of realize people ask me, "What do you do for self care?" I'm like, I guess I made that running, so I could like have time to myself to listen to a podcast or to like listen to like just slaps and listen to music as I'm running, and like I would
Mhm.
go far, 5, 6 miles, 8 miles, and it seemed like a long time, but then I got back, I'm like, man, I really ran for an hour and 20 or whatever. So like stuff like that was kind of like my only safe care that I really did, but that's really cool that you shared all that, and hopefully we could inspire other people to take care of themselves, choose a path that they're in love with, and definitely like not just chase clout like you said. You know what I mean? But anyways, you still hoop or what?
That's funny that you said that. I was like, yeah, I still play basketball, and like that was a huge like self-care thing for me, but that was obviously taken away, because gyms, closed down. And yeah, I still play basketball. Still really a huge Sacramento Kings fan.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
You said sorry. I don't know. They're doing pretty well right now. Who knows? The season's so long.
We I'm a Kings fan too, so I mean I know it's like it's a love hate thing for sure. So, but I do love I'm a Kings fan, and I'm glad you're still passionate about basketball. I probably still beat you 1-on-1, but
You
that's for a
think
different
so?
podcast. That's for a different podcast. No, I'm not a hooper. I'm not a hooper at all. But anyways, I appreciate your time. Thank you for giving me this hour on a Friday evening after work, and I hope you can inspire someone with your story, and definitely let's link up again. Let's do something.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Yeah, it's nice seeing you again, even
Heck
through
yeah.
Zoom.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. No,
All right.
we'll link up for sure. We'll do something. We gotta do
Yeah.
something. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Hit me
much.
up.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Later.